Study Session 3, The Problems of Universals and Particulars. In the previous study session, we discussed the notion of being, essence, and existence. In this study session, we will examine the notions of universals and particulars. In doing so, we will review the age-long debate known as the problem of universals and particulars. After you have studied this session, you should be able to describe the notions of universals and particulars and explain the meaning of general universal terms, the concepts of universals and particulars. In our engagement with reality or contact with the external world, things are grouped into categories. These categories are universals and particulars. It is rather easy for us to observe particular objects in the world, particular things in our everyday experience, particular dress, particular houses, particular men and women, friends, and so on. We observe shapes and sizes of objects and things. We observe qualities and quantities as we go about our daily experiences. There are many particular dogs and there are many particular goats, tables, and other objects. Each dog is different from the other one, although they are all dogs. From this, a basic or crucial question that emerges is there not something that is universal, transcendental, fundamental to all dogs, some sort of dogness or doghood, that is common to all these dogs, no matter their differences and variations that make them all dogs? Universals are said to exist over and above all particulars. The question that arises is this: which one gives birth to the other? Is it that we encounter the particulars and therefore come up with the idea of the universals? For instance, is it that we encounter particular cats and therefore come up with universal catness? Or is it that particular cats are derived from the idea of universal catness? These questions are as old as philosophy itself and still beg for answers. According to Bertrand Russell, particulars are entities which can only be subjects or terms of relations and cannot be predicates or relations. A particular is naturally conceived as a this or something intrinsically analogous to a this, and such an entity seems incapable of being a predicate or a relation. As such, universal is referred to as anything that is a predicate or a relation. Furthermore, a universal is what particular things have in common, namely characteristics or qualities. In other words, universals are repeatable or recurrent entities that can be instantiated or exemplified by many particular things. The problem of universal arises from attempts to account for the phenomenon of similarity or attribute agreement among things. Some understanding of metaphysics is ontology, the study of being or what exists. We can classify what sort of things exist. Start, for example, with whales, which are animals, which are living things. Each whale is an individual thing, a particular. Each class of whales, animals, and so on contains many particular things, but we usually suppose that each of these classifications has internal unity, that is, that a class is not formed by some arbitrary imposition. Living things are examples of physical things, which are all particular things. What each class has in common, being a whale. What each class has in common, being a whale, being a mammal, and so on, identifies a property or quality of particular things. All whales have the property of being a whale in common, while whales and elephants have in common that they are mammals. Our language commonly identifies particular things as subjects and properties by predicates. Predicates indicate two types of property, qualities but also relations. For example, to the north of, larger than, and so on. This relation are also something particular things have in common. But now in other of pairs, for instance, whales are larger than mice. Can we therefore say that properties exist, though obviously in a different way from particulars? Being a mammal and its larger than do not sound like they refer to things. They are not nouns. However, we do have nouns that do not refer to particular things, but to what they can have in common, such as size, blue, honesty, rarity, and so on. So it seems that there are two sorts of things, particulars and properties. Some philosophers think of properties as universals. Words and phrases that refer to universals apply generally to more than one thing. Words that refer to particular things pick out just that one thing. A nominalist is a person who argues that only particulars exist in meanings. A nominalist argues that only particulars exist in any meaningful sense. Universals do not exist separately or independently from particulars. Words for universals do not refer to any distinct thing. There is, for example, blue being a whale that is exemplified by two different particulars. Instead, the particulars simply resemble each other, and we pick this up in thought and language. Certainly, there are blue things such as the sky, blueberries. These exist, but blue itself does not exist because a number of particulars resemble each other in a certain way. We'll call them all blue. William of Ockham, Berkeley, and Hume all argued for this position. The meaning of general universal terms, nominalism and resemblance. If we adopt nominalism, what do general terms mean? If universals do not exist, do they refer to nothing at all? Or how do they get their meaning? There are two popular options. The first is that general terms mean the set of all those particular things to which they apply. For example, blue means all blue things. There is, however, an objection to this claim. Many general terms, such as honesty, are often used in ways that does not allow us to substitute all honest people. That is, honesty is the best policy has not successfully been paraphrased in a way that refers only to sets of particular honest people. Surely, it is simpler to say that honesty refers to the universal honesty. Again, those things are blue, can change. So the set of all blue things can change, but this doesn't change the meaning of blue. So the meaning cannot just be the set. Third, two predicates, for example, has a shape and has a size, can apply to exactly the same set of things that have different meanings. The second option avoids these objections. General terms mean the concept, the abstract idea. We notice the resemblance between two or more particulars in our sense experience. We then abstract from our experience to form an abstract idea, and this gives the general term its meaning. The discussion thus far leaves us wondering where our classification system came from. What makes blue things blue? If it is just that we apply the term blue to them, then what explains our concept? If there is nothing in virtue of which blue things are blue, our concept is completely arbitrary. The obvious answer for the nominalist is that blue things are blue because they resemble other blue things. What we have picked out with the term blue is a pattern of resemblance. This pattern explains our concept. However, we should try to not explain this pattern of resemblance by appealing to a universal that those particulars share. Can nominalists argue, therefore, that the relation is just an abstract idea, since they argue that we form the abstract idea by noticing the resemblance that is held to be real and comes before the idea? Put differently, we are bound to accept the reality of at least certain types of universal vis those relations that form patterns of resemblances. Let us now take a look at realism and universals. Plato argued that since more than one thing can be beautiful, beauty is a property of beautiful things share in common. Beauty manifests itself in all the different things, in all the different ways, but called beautiful. But beauty itself is not a particular thing, and Plato argued that it must be something distinct from particular things. For instance, all particular beautiful things could also be destroyed, yet that will not destroy beauty itself. Universals, therefore, exist independently of particulars, outside space, time, and the changing world of sense experience. While many realists about universals do not accept Plato's arguments or his claim that they exist completely independently of particular things, they do accept 2 points. One over many. Universals are general, so that many particulars can exhibit the same universal. Instantiation. What the particulars have in common is a universal. That is, what makes all the things that are whales is the property of being a whale. Universals explain what they have in common. The basic argument in favor of realism is that without universals, we cannot explain or understand our abilities to recognize, categorize, and generalize about particulars. Since our classifications are not arbitrary, and to explain the phenomenon of similarity, we therefore need universals. Study session summary. In this study session, we examined the notions of universals and particulars. We presented universals as the general forms of things in the world, sometimes referred to as essences. We went further to examine the problem of which one gives rise to the other. We also raised the question on whether it is the general notions that give birth to particulars, or whether particulars conglomerate to give the impression of universals. And that brings us to the end of study session 3. Thank you for listening.